All right, good evening and welcome to the Monday night edition of the People Show with yours truly, Mark Wallace, your host and facilitator on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio. Of course, you can catch us at Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I want to ask you that when you go on to your YouTube please register and subscribe. There is absolutely no cost for a subscription. I just want to make sure that we are building our audience across all of our platforms for the purposes of engaging us in very important conversation and discussions about issues that are important to our communities. Of course, this is Black History Month, and we are going to be recognizing people who are doing great work and working all across the landscape and the diaspora of the Black community, whether it be here in Chicago, Cook County, the state of Illinois, as well as across the country. And we're going to recognize those in past, those who are currently, and some of those who are certainly going to be a great voice for the future of our world and country and community. And so we are here. You will be able to join us in the conversation by calling at 951 221 8221. We'll be opening up the phone lines there, and you'll be able to participate in the conversation. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to open up the phone lines now, and you will be able to join me tonight. So we are going to we're going to get started. Matter of fact, I want to just play some clips of some people that I hold dearly as people that certainly played a major role in my development from an early age. And then certainly we're going to recognize people like Harold Washington, who was the pivotal person. I've never met him. I think was in the room with him at the same time when he came by the church that I was a member of during his campaign for his second election. I had just moved to Chicago in November of 1985, which was in the middle of his first term. And then I later joined church on the north side of Chicago, Union Missionary Baptist Church, where the Reverend Marvin Alexander is the pastor there. He's been there some 55 years or something like that, 56 years. And we just actually was over there a couple of weeks ago and celebrated his 79th birthday. And so I became a member of that congregation, and Harold Washington came through with his campaign. But I, again, didn't get a chance to meet him, but certainly was in the room. But Harold Washington was the single most dominant political figure that really kind of opened my eyes to getting engaged in the importance of participating in the electoral process, and then certainly being active. The first person, obviously, who made significant impact on me was Jimmy Carter. And I just bought this commemorative edition of Jimmy Carter there. And so I just bought it actually, and I want to spend time reading it. The man was 100 years old, and he was my favorite president, and I actually got a chance to meet him thanks to the late Susan Peters, who was a part of the University of Chicago, who made that possible for me to get a chance to meet him and get a copy of his book. This was back in 2015. So these are two very, very important figures that were living, that had an impact on my life, and certainly that encouraged me to be involved and get involved. And I am continuously inspired by them. I watch and read as much information about them and their approach to public service. And while I am not an elected official and I will not be an elected official, certainly not to my knowledge, but I will always be an active, engaged citizen to work and to collaborate and to fight on behalf of the people in our communities, and certainly the most vulnerable and those who have been marginalized and dismissed, and those with serious challenges. However, I've been doing some research and doing some studying about our community specifically and about how we're doing. I am looking forward to, and I am trying to organize to have guests all the way throughout the month of um, February, and dealing with issues that on research. The Pew Research Center certainly has updated a lot of information about the United States Black population. And tonight we're going to be talking about Black Americans' views on success in the United States. So we're going to be talking about that and then going through some statistics to see where we are and how we are doing. But I believe that we cannot be dismissive of people who are struggling and people who are challenged in our communities, and we can't write them off and label them as something other than um, um, human beings. We tend to um, sometimes we tend to do that sort of thing. And of course, um, there is a parable in scripture where Jesus talks about and I believe it's in the Gospel of Matthew, and he talks about the shepherd who leaves the flock of 99 sheep to find the one that is lost. And what that illustrates is that we have to diligently go after those who are lost, those who are caught up in activity that has socialized them into a life of destruction out of very desperate situations. Um, but I don't believe that we should, as Black people, allow ourselves to um, become so anesthetized to, well, we see young men and women that are involved in what I call high risk activity that is destructive, violence, and crime, that we have to corporately do all that we can to try and help them, to try to get them before they do something that destroys somebody else's life and thusly destroying their lives. We have to get to them. I played a clip last night on a special podcast that I did last night, and I'm going to play it again tonight. And maybe those who join tonight will get a chance to take a look at it. It was something that I saw on Facebook that had a very significant impact on me in a very different way. And I still haven't quite been able to articulate it, other than to know that we have to do more. We have to find ways to connect with each other so that we can do more to have greater impact to save those who are in that small minority that have strayed and significantly strayed, or have been led down a path being socialized into a lifestyle that is counterproductive to all. So we can't afford to give up on one. Um, and that is not suggesting that we are endorsing any type of violence or making any kind of excuse for violence or crime, but we want to do all that we can to prevent it. We want to do all we can to try to rescue those who don't even know that what they are into um, is destructive. And I know it's hard for some people to say, well, how could they not know? If you have been socialized a certain way, that is what your existence is. There is a movie, and I want you to go Google it. I'm not sure where you can get it, but I want you to Google it. And it speaks directly to what I'm talking about. If your every existence, your socialization since you were into the world was in a certain way, then that is what your norm is. That's what your normality is. Even though it is an abnormality, it may be, but that is what your socialization is. So that's what you know, and you only know that. You have to operate within a certain set of principles within that socialization in order to survive. As destructive as it may be, that's all you know. If you only know one language, you can't speak a second language. If you only know Spanish and you're never taught English, you can't teach English, or vice versa. So, and we have people who have grown up in that environment, who have been socialized that way. And it's a small section, it's a small sect of people that is impacting us all because we talk about it, but it's impacting us all. And it's going to take all of us, as many and all the different ways that we can to try to reduce and save as many as we possibly can. So I'm going to play this clip. No, the first thing I'm going to, because I want to play that a little bit later. I'm going to wait till more people come in because I want more people to see that clip that I played last night. But I want to recognize some people that I consider to be people who have had significant influence on my life. One person in particular, this woman who I first heard when I was in high school. I think I was in junior high school at the time, or just going into high school. Maybe I was in my sophomore year. And she was a junior congresswoman from Texas. And the Watergate hearings had just started. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And my father, of all people, my father made me watch the Watergate hearings. And I'm from Miami, Florida, and we had um, the Quinmester system where there are some of the students went to school from 7 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock. And then there is a second shift from 12 o'clock until 5 o'clock. And I was on, as a sophomore, you go from 12 o'clock till 5 o'clock. And so, but my father would would have me to watch the Watergate hearings. Well, but there were times that they had the Watergate hearings on very late at night. And this particular night, they decided to continue to air the Watergate hearings and to keep television open because even back then, television shut down at 11 o'clock. But this particular time when they had the Watergate hearings, they continued. This is Representative Barbara Jordan, who gives the Congress a constitutional lecture, which ultimately led to Richard Nixon's inner staff and his inner circle that went to him and said to him that he either has to resign or face being impeached. This speech that Robert Jordan gave at Congress during the Nixon Watergate hearings. Take a look.
This morning, in a discussion of the evidence, we are told that the evidence which purports to support the allegations of misuse of the CIA by the president is thin. We're told that that evidence is insufficient. What that recital of the evidence this morning did not include is what the president did know on June the 23rd, 1972. The president did know that it was...
All right, let me cue this up properly. I forgot. All right, here we go. I'm going to start this right from the beginning.
I recognize the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jordan, the purpose of general debate, not to exceed a period of 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, I join my colleague, Mr. Rangel, in thanking you for giving the junior members of this committee the glorious opportunity of sharing the pain of this inquiry. Mr. Chairman, you are a strong man, and it has not been easy, but we have tried as best we can to give you as much assistance as possible. Earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we the people. Today I am an inquisitor, and hyperbole would not be fictional and would not overstate the solemnness that I feel right now. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution. Who can so properly be the inquisitors for the nation as the representatives of the nation themselves? The subjects of its jurisdiction are those offenses which proceed from the misconduct of public men. And that's what we're talking about. In other words, from the abuse or violation of some public trust. It is wrong, I suggest, it is a misreading of the Constitution for any member here to assert that for a member to vote for an article of impeachment means that that member must be convinced that the president should be removed from office. The Constitution doesn't say that. The powers relating to impeachment are an essential check in the hands of the body, the legislature, against and upon the encroachments of the executive. The division between the two branches of the legislature, the House and the Senate, assigning to the one the right to accuse and to the other the right to judge. The framers of this Constitution were very astute. They did not make the accusers and the judges the same person. We know the nature of impeachment. We've been talking about it a while now. It is chiefly designed for the president and his high ministers to somehow be called into account. It is designed to bridle the executive if he engages in excesses. It is designed as a method of national inquest into the conduct of public men. The framers confided in the Congress the power, if need be, to remove the president in order to strike a delicate balance between a president swollen with power and grown tyrannical and preservation of the independence of the executive. the nature of impeachment a narrowly channeled exception to the separation of powers maxim. The Federal Convention of 1787 said that. It limited impeachment to high crimes and misdemeanors and discounted and opposed the term maladministration. It is to be used only for great misdemeanors, so it was said in the North Carolina Ratification Convention. And in the Virginia Ratification Convention, we do not trust our liberty to a particular branch. We need one branch to check the other. No one need be afraid. The North Carolina Ratification Convention, no one need be afraid that officers who commit oppression will pass with immunity. Prosecutions of impeachments will seldom fail to agitate the passions of the whole community, said Hamilton in the Federalist Papers number 65. We divide into parties, more or less friendly or inimical to the accused. I do not mean political parties in that sense. The drawing of political lines goes to the motivation behind impeachment. But impeachment must proceed within the confines of the constitutional term high crime and misdemeanors. Of the impeachment process, it was Woodrow Wilson who said that nothing short of the grossest offenses against the plain law of the land will suffice to give them speed and effectiveness. Indignation so great as to overgrow party interest may secure a conviction, but nothing else can. Common sense would be revolted if we engaged upon this process for petty reasons. Congress has a lot to do. Appropriations, tax reform, health insurance, campaign finance reform, housing, environmental protection, energy sufficiency, mass transportation. Pettiness cannot be allowed to stand in the face of such overwhelming problems. So today we're not being petty. We're trying to be big because the task we have before us is a big one. This morning, in a discussion of the evidence, we are told that the evidence which purports to support the allegations of misuse of the CIA by the president is thin. We're told that that evidence is insufficient. What that recital of the evidence this morning did not include is what the president did know on June the 23rd, 1972. The president did know that it was Republican money, that it was money from the Committee for the Re-election of the President, which was found in the possession of one of the burglars arrested on June the 17th. What the president did know on the 23rd of June was the prior activities of E. Howard Hunt, which included his participation in the break-in of Daniel Ellsberg, psychiatrist, which included Howard Hunt's participation in the Dita Beard ITT affair, which included Howard Hunt's fabrication of cables designed to discredit the Kennedy administration. We were further cautioned today that perhaps these proceedings ought to be delayed because certainly there would be new evidence forthcoming from the President of the United States. There has not even been an obfuscated indication that this committee would receive any additional materials from the president. The committee subpoena is outstanding, and if the president wants to supply that material, the committee sits here. The fact is that on yesterday, the American people waited with great anxiety for 8 hours, not knowing whether their president would obey an order of the Supreme Court of the United States. At this point, I would like to juxtapose a few of the impeachment criteria with some of the actions the president has engaged in. Impeachment criteria. James Madison, from the Virginia Ratification Convention. If the president be connected in any suspicious manner with any person and there be grounds to believe that he will shelter him, he may be impeached. We have heard time and time again that the evidence reflects the payment to defendants, money. The president had knowledge that these funds were being paid, and these were funds collected for the 1972 presidential campaign. We know that the president met with Mr. Henry Peterson 27 times to discuss matters related to Watergate, and immediately thereafter met with the very persons who were implicated in the information Mr. Peterson was receiving. The words are, if the president is connected in any suspicious manner with any person and there be grounds to believe that he will shelter that person, he may be impeached. Just a story. Impeachment is intended for occasional and extraordinary cases where a superior power acting for the whole people is put into operation to protect their rights and rescue their liberties from violations. We know about the Houston plan. We know about the break-in of the psychiatrist's office. We know that there was absolute, complete direction on September 3rd when the president indicated that a surreptitious entry had been made in Dr. Fielding's office after having met with Mr. Ehrlichman and Mr. Young. Protect their rights, rescue their liberties from violation. The Carolina Ratification Convention impeachment criteria: those are impeachable who behave amiss or betray their public trust. Beginning shortly after the Watergate break-in and continuing to the present time, the president has engaged in a series of public statements and actions designed to thwart the lawful investigation by government prosecutors. Moreover, the president has made public announcements and assertions bearing on the Watergate case, which the evidence will show he knew to be false. These assertions, false assertions, impeachable, those who misbehave, those who behave amiss or betray the public trust. James Madison again at the Constitutional Convention: a president is impeachable if he attempts to subvert the Constitution. The Constitution charges the president with the task of taking care that the laws be faithfully executed. And yet, the president has counseled his aides to commit perjury, willfully disregard the secrecy of grand jury proceedings, conceal surreptitious entry, attempt to compromise a federal judge, while publicly displaying his cooperation with the processes of criminal justice. A president is impeachable if he attempts to subvert the Constitution. If the impeachment provision in the Constitution of the United States will not reach the offenses charged here, then perhaps that 18th century Constitution should be abandoned to a 20th century paper shredder. Has the president committed offenses and planned and directed and acquiesced in a course of conduct which the Constitution will not tolerate? That's the question. We know that. We know the question. We should now forthwith proceed to answer the question. It is reason and not passion which must guide.
That was Barbara Jordan on July 24th, 1974. 1 o'clock in the morning, she gave that powerful speech, and you could see that the room was full, and you could hear a pin drop. And it was largely reported that she gave an academic constitutional lecture to the members of Congress. Now, I remind you that she was recently elected. She was as a junior member of the House. She was a lawyer, and she was born in 1936 and passed away in 1996. She was only 59 years of age, but she was highly regarded as a great orator, and that was one of her signature speeches. But she was a brilliant, brilliant woman, and so I celebrate her during our remembrance of Black History Month, and reflecting on people who have served our country and certainly served the interests of our people. She's from Texas, and I'm sure that she was the first woman to be elected to the state Senate there in Texas when she was elected there. I believe it was in 1971. So, and then she went on to be elected to the House of Representatives in Congress. And so there is certainly one other person. I don't have his clip, but I'm going to play clips from him next week. But I want to, I think that I may have, I hope that I don't know if I have her here. No, I'll have to cue her up for next week. But I was going to give you a clip from one of my other sheroes that was in the person of Fannie Lou Hammer. I do have Fannie Lou Hammer. Here you go.
Want me to stand? Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hammer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Rooseville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Rooseville, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Rooseville, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said? And I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I mean that if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. Said then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we're not ready for that in Mississippi. And I addressed him and told him, that I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September, 1962, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Rooseville, Mississippi. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. And June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off to use the washroom, and 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone in to use the restaurant was ordered out.
That was Fannie Lou Hammer in August 22nd, 1964. She was speaking before the credentials committee, and it was a time where Lyndon Baines Johnson had actually called an impromptu press conference, went to the briefing room in order that it not be aired. And of course, it was not aired because the president was speaking. And as a result of that, trying to shut it down, but he actually did it a big favor because all of the news broadcasts carried it. And so it became widely recognized and widely noticed. Fannie Lou Hammer, who was a staunch fighter. She was a sharecropper all of her life, but she became an activist and spoke all over the country. She was talking about the experience where they actually did get arrested, and she went to jail, and the jailers there actually had some of those who were jailed. They had 2 black men who were in prison there and jailed, and they forced them to beat Fannie Lou Hammer with police wands and threatened them that if they did not do it, what would happen to them. And they both beat her until they were completely exhausted. And this is a woman who stood, and she is the one who coined the phrase that many recite today, is that I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. That was Fannie Lou Hammer's line that many of us have used from one time or the other. Well, I'm watching right now the board meeting that is happening in the village of Dalton. And of course, Tiffany Henyard, who is the mayor and the Thornton Township supervisor, that is embroiled in all kinds of controversy. And it seems as though what's happening down there in Dalton, in the village of Dalton, and in the Thornton Township, with all the chaos, where people there have just completely lost their confidence in Tiffany Henyard as mayor, and certainly Tiffany Henyard as supervisor. I have not been involved and engaged in that. I've only watched it from afar. But it is, excuse me, it is certainly a very sad state of affairs as to what is happening in Dalton, and certainly what's happening in the Thornton Township. Now, what I have observed from her as a public representative is not something that I believe should be the decorum, and certainly should not be the what a representative, a public representative, should carry themselves. When she was first elected and she ran against the then incumbent, who was, as far as I know, was a pretty decent man. I met him and actually toured the village of Dalton. And his last name was Rogers. I can't remember his first name at this time. He was a retired state trooper. And at that point, I was looking at the possibility of purchasing the Dalton Bowl. And so I met him, and he eventually lost that election, and then reached out to Tiffany Henyard to no avail. She never responded back. And just kind of watch things unravel there. And again, looking at it from afar, I'm not making any allegations because I don't have any factual information to make any determination one way or the other. But what I can say is that when you have lost the trust of the voters, when you have lost the confidence of the voters have a right to have representatives in place that they trust. Now, we do have an election process, and I'm not sure whether or not the General Assembly would intervene there if they really believe that there was some serious reason for them to intervene there. Of course, they just had an independent inspection where, not inspection, but an investigation where Lori Lightfoot was hired, and her firm that she works for was hired to do an investigation of what is alleged to be misappropriation of funds, and apparently that investigation turned up some results that were not favorable about the leadership of the administration. So again, it really boils down to the people being able to have confidence in who it is that's representing them. And if they don't trust who is representing them, it's very hard for you to have effective leadership. And I think that the people will have to stand up, and the people will have to vote. There's an election that is coming up, and they will make their choice. But, I think that it is a very unfortunate situation because she is a young Black woman, and she had a lot of promise by being elected as the mayor of a village. And she would have been a positive role model for a lot of young Black girls. Unfortunately, all of that has changed. So I think that that's the unfortunate part of this, that young Black girls are seeing something very differently than something that would be positive for them to look forward to, or to potentially becoming engaged in the political process themselves. Again, I am not making any determination on any wrongdoing. That will eventually, that question will get answered. If in fact they're either by an election, or certainly by other means of investigation, or both, for that matter. Now, one of the things that I have raised a question about is, you have, I don't remember how many suburban communities that there are, and I don't know how many of the suburban municipalities, villages, are within the Thornton Township. The question that I raised was, why do you have villages that have a village mayor, a village administrator, or a village manager? Why do you need to have a separate body that is governing over a certain number of them? I don't understand it. So I started asking questions about that, trying to figure this out, trying to find out at least. And what I'm told is the sole purpose of the Thornton Township is that it gets the money from the county, and the board determines how that money is divvied up, how it's distributed. And so I would think that here we have another layer of government that may be not in the best interest of the townships. Why not divide the resources up that's coming from the county, and the county distributes the resources to the municipalities, and the municipalities can take their portion of that levy and provide whatever the services are that are distributed by the Thornton Township, without having this other layer of government that is causing the people in those villages to pay more in taxes. For instance, I saw a tax bill on a property that I was researching. I saw a tax bill in the village of Dalton, and the taxes were somewhere around, I guess, $5,500 or something like that. But one of the line items is a Thornton Township. And the Thornton Township received from the Dalton resident property owner. So the Thornton Township, so she gets part of the money goes to the village of Dalton. And the Thornton Township, it was like a $1,500 allotment in their $5,500 a year taxes that goes to the Thornton Township, for which I still don't understand what it is they do. So those are the questions that I would have. It had nothing to do with Tiffany Henyard. But then again, something came out where the Thornton Township supervisor, which is Tiffany Henyard, is earning more than $200,000 a year. Then they changed the rule that that policy will change upon the next incoming supervisor. I don't know why it wouldn't change retroactively. So there's some serious questions there. So we'll see how that unfolds. On another village, our organization, 10 by 10 to Win, which is a political action committee, and we are building and organizing a Black independent democratic voting bloc so that we can select, slate, and elect people to go to public offices, the various public offices, from the city to the county to the state to our federal offices, to represent a stronger investment and representation of the Black community all over. So if you would just join us and participate, you can, I'm going to put the telephone number that you can call if you want to get in on the conversation, and maybe you have somebody that you would like to recognize for Black History Month. What I'd like to know is, I have a few people that literally, that literally um, impacted me in terms of public service. And that is Jimmy Carter, Harold Washington, and Barbara Jordan. These are three significant political figures that have had a serious impact on me and that look to for their guidance. I look to them and I remind myself of them and their character and their courage to engage in being a good public service. Now, I'm not elected, not going to be elected, but I'm going to still continue to serve, to do whatever I can to try to help advance our community. And I think that that is incumbent upon all of us, that we have that responsibility, because that's what Brother Stokely Carmichael said that we all must do. And so these are individuals who I look to. Stokely Carmichael was not a public representative, but in my study of him and reading about him and his advocacy, much of what he talks about, I agree with. And one of the things that he talked about is that we must work together in masses. And those who have had some advancement or success have a responsibility, a greater responsibility, to use that success for the people. His word specifically was that no Black person in this country makes any advancement solely based on his or her talent or worth. All individual advancement is based on mass struggle. We make no progress in this world without shedding our blood. Therefore, brothers and sisters, your advancement and success does not belong to you. Your advancement and success belongs to the people. And if you do not use your advancement or success for the benefit of your people, you betray the people who shed their blood for you. Those are the words of Stokely Carmichael. And I share those sentiments in saying that any of us who have had success, and we're going to talk about what success looks like to the average Black American. Pew Research Center did a study. They have updates on the research that they've done. And I want to share some of that information. We're going to do that at the top of the hour. And so we're going to go through some of that information, which is some of the statistics are encouraging. They are encouraging, interesting, that you, I think, will take a look. Also, talking about getting active. Of course, a lot of you know what is going on with the thug in chief, the dumb president that we have in place, occupying 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You can get involved by calling your senator, calling your state representative and telling them to do more, or telling them, expressing how and your thoughts about what's going on. The switchboard you can call at 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. Call your Congress representative, call your senator, and let your voice be heard. So I want to um, remind you. Oh, and I said I was going to play that clip now, and I'm going to play that clip with the young man who I saw this on social media, and I don't know where he is, what area he is, but I would love to connect with him. And because he certainly connected with me. Now, he spoke to a group of young men, I should say a group of young boys, high school boys, and shared his experience. But it struck me in a very different way than some of the other speeches that I've heard, which are similar, but there was something about what he was saying struck me that we need to do more. We need to do more. You and I need to do more, and we need to connect with more people across the diaspora of our communities. I mean, in masses, we need to be connecting. We need to commit ourselves to stretching ourselves, to connecting ourselves together for the benefit of those who are at the bottom and for the benefit of those who are in that small minority that's caught up in a destructive way of life, or certainly on their way. And this young man gave, he gave a talk. And apparently he called it, I labeled it real talk. But he stopped by to talk to these guys, and I want you to listen to it. But I don't want you to be judgmental about the language, because that's what his socialization was. But he certainly has had a different mindset. Now, mind you, this was a young man who went to prison at age 16, spent 21 years in prison, was sentenced to 174 years. I don't know what the charges were, and it doesn't matter. Not important, but just to put it in context, to kind of set this up as to what you're going to see. I want you to see it. I want you to hear it. And then I want you to tell me, how did it impact you after you hear it?
Yeah, you say you ain't got decent grades? What's your grade?
I got A's and B's.
Shout out to you, man. Real talk. Fuck with me before you leave. You heard me? Yeah, fuck with me before you leave. Who ain't got decent grades though? Raise your hand for real. Everybody ain't got good grades, gang. You don't. Why you ain't got good grades?
I'm always distracted.
What's your distraction?
Well, it's not. I can't get distracted no more.
Okay. Hey, bro, look, dig this. Let me chop it up with y'all, right? Dig this. I was y'all age, right? Some of y'all was just out there, some of y'all won't. But I was y'all age when they snatched me, right? I was 16 when I went to the penitentiary, right? I came home 37 last year, right? I did 21 years for putting in pain. Like real life putting in pain, though, not no cute shit, right? Grades fucked up, spitting on teachers, I'm going in, right? Because I ain't care. But I ain't realized I ain't even lived long enough to have nothing to care about. Know what I'm saying? That's why I ain't care, because I ain't had nothing to care about. And then the niggas that was raising me was teaching me not to give a fuck without even knowing they was teaching me not to give a fuck. Right? So when I get to smacking shit, everybody wondering why, and I don't even know why. I'm just going off what I knew. Right? Whole time I think I'm trained, I look like a goddamn clown. Listen to me. Right? The people laid me down, bro. They gave me 174 years. I ain't even know I was coming home last year. If it weren't for the system changing, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd still be rotting. Pay attention to what I'm telling you, yo. They don't give a fuck, bro. They laying us down. On top of that, we laying us down. Who losing and who winning? I keep talking about check the score. Check the score. We down. Check the score, bro. We losing, man. Y'all gotta pay attention, real talk. You gotta tighten up, gang. We losing. If you don't realize it yet, y'all literally the future, yo. All these adults in here, in the next 30 years, whatever such as up, we'll be gone and y'all will be having to build this thing. Right? Y'all gotta be accountable, bro. Y'all will own the record labels. Y'all will be the head of the basketball teams. Y'all will be the presidents. Y'all will be, that's if you even can think yourself that far. And don't stop right here, bro. This ain't it for you. You let this be it for you and you're a goddamn clown. Listen to me. Everybody in here a slam winner, bro. Real talk, I don't care what they told you. I don't care who your big homie is. None of that. Pay attention to what I'm telling you, bro. Every single one of y'all a winner. If they doubt you, tell them come see me. You heard me? If they doubt you, bro, tell them come get me. Call my phone. Text me on Facebook, I'll pull up. On my soul, I'll pull up. You heard me? I'm telling y'all, listen to me. Get it together, bro. You still got a shot if you here. You woke up this morning, you still got a shot, bro. Y'all putting yourselves in a position to lose before you even get a chance to win, man. You gotta tighten up, yo. You gotta make better decisions here. I'm telling you. And don't look at your homeboy to see how he looking at me right now. You're a clown if you do that. Stand on your own 10. If he want to die early, that's on him. Pay attention to that. Let me give y'all a jewel I learned early in the game, yo. Pay attention to your circle. It's going to tell you who you are. If everybody around you got F's, you got them too. Everybody around you goofy and playing with firearms, y'all niggas, that shit clowned out at this point, bro. Nobody trying to die when they 16, 14, 13, 18. You ain't even lived yet. Talking about what you like and don't like. You don't know what you like yet, bro. You got to give yourself a chance here. I ain't give myself a chance. I'm standing here 38 years old trying to learn how to get on Facebook. When people take shit from you, you can't get back, bro. Real rap, I'm telling you some real shit. I'm sitting in a cell with niggas for 21 years, bro. Niggas that don't know how to read. They put that man away so long, he don't know how to read, bro. Your mama grow old in front of you. Your little brother bigger than you now. You come home, this nigga great. All my niggas old as shit now, bro. I come home looking young and say I'm looking at these niggas like, damn. My mama old as shit. I go in the penitentiary. My mama 36. I come home, she 58. That shit crushed me, man. So all this shit y'all doing out here, bro, if you playing with them jokes, if you claiming you got smoke in the op, half these niggas y'all calling ops ain't even ops, bro. Because the real op, when he see you, he gonna slide you. I'm telling you because I did it. That's a real op, bro. Ain't no going to school, ain't no going to getting on the bus or nothing. I'ma clean your ass. So stop making niggas seem like it's something that ain't just so you can have some smoke or have your name ring about something. That shit goofy, bro. Get you some money. Legally, get you some money. You got a mind for a reason. Use it, bro. When you grab your phone, where your phone at? Right in your hand, right? What's in your hand right now? Tell me. Your phone, but what's on your phone? Everything. Now let me tell you how I see it. Give me your phone. I got the world in my hand. I can Google China. I can Google Bahamas. I can go anywhere from right here in Newport News. I got the world in my hands, yo. They hand you the world and you lose. Make it make sense, bro. Use it to do the right stuff. Just sitting there strolling. Use it to learn something, yo. Real talk. Google something. Get it right. You got so much information right there. Use it, yo. That's how you become rich. Take care of your family. Buy your neighborhood eventually. All y'all can do it. Trust me when I tell you, bro. I'm on the phone with people that literally done it. That's where I'm at now with this thing I got going on. I'm on the phone with men that's buying back their neighborhood, bro. Who are we not to do the same? All y'all can do it. If anybody tell you can't, bring them to me. Stand them in front of me, bro. I'm telling you, I'll fight for you niggas, man. Listen to me. Listen, I'll rumble for you, bro. I'll come to your school. I'll come to wherever, long as you right. You tell me you right, you keeping a band with me, I'm going to fight for you. If you don't think nobody going to fight for you, I'm telling you I'm going to rumble for you. Before I let them sit you in a cell, or you got your mama back here crying with your name spelled on the ground in candles, bro, I'm going to rumble for you, man. Come on, yo, y'all got to tighten up, though, man. You have to tighten up. There's plenty programs out here that's giving out jobs. Y'all got so many different resources out here. You need them, bro. Use them. Call me. I'm going to give them to you. Different plugs to all type of jobs. Y'all want a check coming in every week, every 2 weeks. I got to do something, though, bro. Standing around doing night smoking weed and playing with guns lead to this shit. You got to tighten up, bro. You have to tighten up. Every single one of y'all a winner. Real rap. I'm telling you a winner, bro. You next, whatever. Whatever you want to be, you think about it, you can do it. You think about it, you can do it. You say you ain't playing football, and I ain't putting you on the spot. But you say you ain't playing football no more, or playing ball no more, because that ain't you no more. Right? You grow and you evolve. I respect that. Right? But whatever you decide next, make sure you got the same passion that you had the moment you realized you liked the ball, period. You understand what I'm saying? Make sure that passion is there. That's how you know you win. You tell me what you pay attention to, I tell you who you are. Real rap, man. All y'all a winner. You in trouble, you get it right, bro. Get it right. Don't be the next one. Don't make your mama go through this shit. I'm telling you, don't make your mama go through that shit. And that visitor room, now y'all know they trying to take away visitation in prison? Because if you into some shit, I'm telling you now, because you going there. They trying to take away visitation and only do it through a screen. Meaning, for however much time you got, even if it's 30 years, you ain't having no physical contact with your family. You got to look at them through a screen. That shit real. That'll make a nigga hang himself. I know, because my dog did it. Come on, man. Tighten up, yo. Real talk, tighten up. I got y'all. There's plenty men out here that got y'all, yo. Rumble for y'all to do this thing right. Real rap, because they waiting on y'all. Some more laws just went in effect. Google, get on your phone and look. For Newport News ahead, check. 2025 laws that went into effect. More laws just went into effect to make it even worse. So getting caught with these junks is called use of a firearm and the commission of a felony. The first one is 3 years mandatory. No judge can change it. Every subsequent offense is 5 years. I know. I did 18 years off of guns alone. You heard me? Each one is 5 years. Look what the fuck they doing. They designed it for you to lose. Only person I want to lose is a threat. If I know you a threat, I got to get you out my way. You see what I'm saying? You a threat because you smart and you black. You heard me? You're a problem. If I catch you reading, I feel threatened. If I catch you doing it right, I feel threatened. I need you out here playing with them Jones. I need you to add a switch to it. When I got locked up, we had standard clips. While I was locked up, they made it extendos. I come home and now it's switches. Meaning, you went from regular shooting to making it to where I can shoot even longer to speeding up me shooting longer. You ain't even satisfied with me killing them. You trying to get me to kill more than one at a time. Pay attention. We losing, bro. Love y'all niggas, man. Come on. I'm in a fight with you. I'm gonna rumble with you. Real rap. Jobs, resources, whatever you need. You scrambling, bro. I got a few connections I can wiggle here. I'm gonna wiggle for you, man. Right? Do it right, though. We do it right, I'm with you. You on bullshit, don't come around me, bro. I like being alive. I like living. I want to wake up, I want to see my mama. Yeah, what you call it. I don't want to be in no cell with no nigga snoring. I ain't with that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to eat no soup again for 20 years. I ain't with that. Know what I'm saying? I like pizza and shit. Know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what I'm on, though. I ate a soup every day for 21 years. I don't want soups no more. I don't want to eat that shit. Know what I'm saying? I want to eat a piece of pizza. Know what I'm saying? I want to dap up I want to do that, bro. I like calling my people and see how they doing. You can't do that shit no more. Get it together, yo. I hope y'all take this conversation for real, though. This is not me trying to hype y'all up. This is not a lecture. This is not a speech. This ain't that shit. This is me telling you what the fuck going on, and I hope y'all paying attention. You heard me? Because I lost. I lost shit I can't get back. And I ain't all right with y'all doing the same. So, use me as your example, bro.
Every time I hear that, it is riveting. It's riveting. But not only that, but it talks about, to me, I maybe it doesn't do anything for you, but it certainly did something for me in terms of saying, Mark, you have to do more with others. This is not about, any one person trying to be some big star in the ghetto. And the only way that we are going to make it, the only way that we are going to convert our communities, maybe the community where you live, is good. Maybe everything is good. You live in a upper middle class community. Schools are good. The community is safe. Your your family is economically doing well. Maybe that's the case. That's not it for you. That's not it for us. For every community, any community that we have where our people are living, we owe it to them to do whatever we can in terms of bringing ourselves together to make sure that we reverse the cycle. We reverse the cycle by making sure that people have a basic level of income to provide for themselves and their family. Parents, we need to find out what's going on with parents in these communities where the children are at risk. What's happening with the parents? We talk a lot about helping the children. And yes, we want to help young men. We want to help young women. But in helping them, in really helping them, a lot of cases we have to look at the holistic situation. We got to look at what's happening with the parents. Does the parent need a job? Does the parent need some help? Does the parent need to get their GED? Do they need some guidance so that they can get into a good job? Whatever it is. That's what we have to be about. That's what organizing ourselves together to challenge the political structure to address the needs of our communities that are struggling, because every community is inextricably tied to all of our communities. So what's happening in Inglewood, what's happening in Roseland, Rosemore, what's happening on the west side, any community that is challenged. And when I say community, that is in people, human beings, because sometimes, we get into these labels and we forget that we're talking about people who are actually struggling to figure out how they are going to be able to feed their children and provide for their children. Mothers, fathers, for whatever the circumstances are, having to work 2 and 3 jobs. That is not normal. And we should not accept that as being normal. So when I see this young man talking about his circumstances, I'm beyond the point of what he did. Unimportant. What was produced that caused him to be vulnerable and socialize to go down that path. Thankfully, 174 years he was sentenced to. And because of the changes in laws as the truth in sentencing as it relates to minors, that certainly here in Illinois and other states have changed. I don't know where he is. I really hope that I could find out where he is. I don't know where he is. But we'll keep trying to find out. But the point is that as long as there is breath in my body, I will continue to work to get us to bring ourselves together so that we can address these abnormalities. As I said, most Black people get up every day and go to work. A lot of Black people are having to go to work and work 2 or 3 jobs. We need to address that too. But most Black people get up every day and go to work. Most Black people are, by some of the Pew research, seem to be doing okay. But we've got work to do. I'm going to move on, but everything that I do here with this program is inextricably tied to what we can do next to try and make things better. Try to make life a little bit better for those who are struggling. And we can do it. It is up to us. It's going to be up to us. It is not going to happen unless we are at the forefront of challenging those who are in our public spaces, in our public offices, that are drawing up legislation, passing legislation. Every piece of legislation is tied to money. There are people lobbying for legislation because it is tied to money. It is tied to this $44 billion that comes out of our government at the state level, $20 billion at the city level of Chicago, $18 billion at the county level, and then, of course, in the collar areas, which are the villages and the suburbs. All of this is money that people want, that you and I pay into. And since you and I pay a great deal into that, then we have to be involved in saying how that money should get distributed to help the most vulnerable in our communities. But in order for us to do that, we've got to be organized, we've got to be informed, and then we have to be strategic, intentional on how we approach that. Now, this is the Pew Research Center did a story on Black Americans' views on success in the United States, how Black adults define personal and financial success, and the pressures they feel to achieve their goals. Most Black Americans, according to the Pew Research, most Black Americans consider themselves at least somewhat successful at 66%. When asked to define what success means to them personally, 82% of Black adults point to the ability to provide for their family. Point is, everybody is not looking to be rich. Some people consider themselves to be rich, and it is a powerful thing when they can provide for their family, take care of their children, buy a home, buy a car, take their family on vacations, have some leisure time activities with their families, prepare to send their children off. That is success. Raising their children, spending time with their family, not having to work 2 and 3 jobs and barely spending time with their family, their wife or husband and children. So I'm looking at these statistics, which are encouraging, but improvement is needed. So again, most Black adults saying being able to provide for their family, being happy, are essential to their definition of success. 66%. 66% saying that consider themselves to be at least somewhat successful. And among all Black adults, the percentage of who say each of the following is an essential of their personal definition of success. 1, being able to provide for the family, 82%. Being happy, 80%. Having enough time to do things that they want to do, 65%. Having a job or a career that they enjoy, 56%. Owning their own homes, 52%. Using their talents and resources to help others, 50%. Making your family or community proud, 37%. Being married, 23%. Now, I want to play something for you on Black marriage in the United States, the state of the family in the United States. I want you to take a look at this. Take a listen to this. This is powerful. It's interesting, but it is also very concerning. Take a look at this.
There's a talk I give on the 5 biggest challenges Black people have for the next 100 years. The number one challenge is the existential crisis of the Black family. The existential crisis of the Black family. Marriage in our culture is down to 34%. When we were growing up, it was 85%, is now down to 34%. 71% of our sisters are not married, 29% will never get married, 63% of our brothers are not married, 30% of them will never get married. There is no culture in the history of humankind that has risen to maximize their full human potential without family at the center of their culture. This only exists. This is an interesting but negative statistic. This phenomenon of the existential crisis of our family only exists among African American Black people. It does not exist on the continent or anywhere else in the diaspora. So there must be something in the water. We must fix this. It is a lot easier said than done because it is impacting our wealth. Quick statistics. For 350 years, household median income was dominated by white people. They were number one in this country. They no longer are number one, they're number 3, and there's a reason for it. So, who has the highest household median wealth in America? It's East Indians, $104,000 a year. What's the marriage rate in the East Indian culture? 94%. 2 are working. Who's number 2? Chinese Asians. Household median income, $110,000 a year. Marriage rate close to 70%. Number 3 are white people. Household median income, $88,000 a year. What's the marriage rate? Almost 50%. Down significantly. Number 4 are Hispanics. Household median income, $61,000 a year. Marriage rate close to 70%. We are at the bottom. Household median income, $55,000 a year. Marriage rate, 34%. And projected based on facts and statistics that if we do not fix this, because white folks ain't fixing this, our marriage rate will be in the low teens in the next 20 years. We must, this is an enormous challenge. That's a whole talk by itself on how do we fix it. It can be fixed, but we have to, first of all, understand that this is a problem. No one's talking about this problem. This is a huge problem. It's the number one problem in our culture. So we must fix it.
There you go. So the structure and the stabilization of a people is through the family. It's through the family. God set his order up the way that he set his order up. He set it up with man, set it up with woman to procreate, but to do it, they have to come together. That's the way he set it up. There was no in vitro fertilization when God created man and woman. The fertilization was that the man and the woman had to come together. to continue the family, to reproduce. I know that we have evolved to all of these different methods, to people saying, well, I don't need a woman, I don't need a man, to all of those really lies, because you need a man or you need a woman. And the reason why that is because that's the way God created us. He created us to be interdependent upon each other. Now, you might not have one, and you may not, or say that you don't want one for whatever the experience is. I'm not getting into the psychology of all of that. I'm simply talking about the way, the order that God created our existence. And our ability lines up, or certainly reflects, either the health or the unhealth of the stability of family. And those statistics that you just heard about where we are in terms of the family is why our wealth is not growing, not increasing, and then we have all the other problems that we have to contend with as a result of. So it's something that we need to continue to talk about. And I think that we can fix it. The way that we fix it is that we have to reconnect ourselves to one another, start having more involvement with each other. Meaning, the Reverend Willie Taplin Barrow, who was a longtime chair at Rainbow Push, and I had the opportunity of working with her in her last days or years of her life, getting very close with her. In fact, was with her at her home when she made her transition. In her book on how to get married and stay married, Reverend Barrow would say to us, not necessarily in the book, but she would say to us, we are not so much as divided as we are disconnected. And it's so very true, because most of us, we relatively believe in the same thing, believe that we need strong schools for our children to get a great education, that we need stable economies and opportunities for jobs, and that we need to have access to contracts so that we can, our businesses can grow and our businesses can employ people in our community. So we believe in all of those things. Basically, fundamentally, we believe in those. There are nuances to everything, but fundamentally, we share more in common than we don't. And I just think that each one of us have to make the extra drive, or the extra whatever that is to say that I am going to stretch myself to get connected and encourage other people in my circle, or other people in friends and families, that we reconnecting ourselves, so that, in other words, we are fellowshipping with each other, so that we have not looking at being interdependent upon each other as some sort of put down. Because in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we were growing up. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I was born in 1960. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. No matter where you grew up as a Black child in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when I say what I'm going to say, you're going to be familiar with that. It's going to have a ring to you. That it was nothing for us to go to our neighbor's house, and I'm using people that I'm familiar with, that I grew up with and where I grew up. Miss Ann, Big Mama. Big Mama and Big Daddy lived to the north of us. Uncle Joe and Miss Long lived next door to us to the south of us. Miss Ingram lived behind us. Miss Wright lived behind us. Miss Odom lived on the corner. Miss Ola lived on the corner. These are people that, and I can go on and on and on and calling names. Why can I call names? Miss Williams lived down the street. Mr. Starks lived down the street. I can go on and on and on. These were real people who lived in our community, who worked in our communities. And you can do the same thing. We were so interconnected that if we didn't have bread in our house, my mother could say, Mark, go next door to Big Mama and she's going to give you some bread. Or if she needed some flour, she could go and send us to Miss Ingram's house, and Miss Ingram would have some flour wrapped up in a jar or a cup. And when you go over there, now you don't just go over there to get the bread, to get the flour, to get the sugar, or whatever it is. When you went to your neighbor's house, guess what happened? You have to talk. You have to get connected. And they talk to you. So as we are growing up, all of these people are our de facto babysitters, our de facto guardians, parents, so we are all interconnected in a community. We know the challenges that we have from time to time. And it was no big deal for you to need some flour or to need some sugar. I actually have where I started a manuscript of a book that I don't know if I'll ever finish it. But I said that if I were to write a book about my growing up, the title of my book would be A Cup of Flour and a Cup of Sugar. That would be the title of my book, because it was a cup of flour and a cup of sugar, meaning that it was resources that kept us, or that brought us to be interconnected in the community. We knew each other. We knew what each other's challenges were. And when someone had a problem or someone was lacking, there was always someone who had it. They might at one point need it. They might not have it, but we would have it and we would exchange. So we provided for each other as neighbors. And as a result thereof, we were one big family. We took care of each other. I didn't know what it was to have a babysitter. The reason why I didn't know, when my mother and father were not at home. Because when my mother and father were not at home, every adult in the community was my overseer. Everyone was my overseer. And so when my mother and father were gone, if I was to engage in some mischief, I better do it in the house. Because if I did it outside of the house, Big Mama or Big Daddy or Uncle Joe or Miss Long or Miss Odom, any one of them, because you weren't going to escape all of those eyes. My point is that we had a interwoven kinship in our communities. Something went wrong somewhere when we decided that to live on the I got mine, you get yours philosophy. We cannot afford individualism in our communities. That ideology is a suicidal ideology. We depended on each other in the 60s and in the 70s. We depended on each other coming out of slavery. Coming out of slavery. When they released the slaves, April the 1st, 1863, through the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed on September the 20th, 1862 by Abraham Lincoln to go into force, into effect on the 1st of the following year, to release all of these enslaved people into a capitalistic society with no capital. What that meant is that all of the enslaved people had to be interdependent upon each other for survival. And that stayed in our community all the way from 1863 to the late 1970s. And then we took a different path. Our generation decided what our moms and what our dads were doing, decided that their generation was behind the 8 ball. They were outdated. The principles by which they lived, that they were outdated. And so when we started having children, our generation, you came up with this philosophy in the 1980s that I'm not going to make my children do what my mama and daddy made me do. I'm not going to have my children to suffer. I'm not going to make my kids go to church. I'm not going to make my kids wash the dishes. I'm not going to make my kids cut grass. I'm not going to make my kids go sell bottles. I'm not going to have my kids to go and sell aluminum cans. Because my mama and daddy made me do that. And the very people in our generation who say that, for the most part, when you look, you're like, well, wait a minute. You're doing okay, right? So whatever your mom and dad did must not have been too bad because you came out okay. And the ideology that you still have your kids that can't pay a light bill. And you got to take care of them. But whatever your mom and dad gave you worked out for you. So we have to get back to being connected as a people. We have to abandon this attitude of individualism. We have to abandon this attitude that we don't want people to know if we have problems, because you can't be helped if nobody knows that you have a problem. And it does not make you any less than anybody else because you have a problem. We have to get back to the point that we have reconnected ourselves, that we are interwoven and interconnected, and we are locking arms to lift each other. That's what we did in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. If we were poor back then, we didn't know it because there was always somebody to stand in the gap. Always somebody willing to sacrifice and to share. And I don't know, really, when we think about it, I don't know that we had a lot of people, when you want to call it sacrifice, because shared sacrifice, that means that we were sharing. We were doing more sharing than necessarily sacrifice. There were children who got put out of their home for one reason or the other. They would come to our house My mother would sit them down. Now they're going to get a lecture. She's going to feed them. She's going to give them a place to sleep. And, but she is going to explain to them. She's going to lay it down. But she never rejected them. And we were not some wealthy family. We had, challenges. And because I didn't come from privilege or wealth, most Black people don't. But whatever we had, my mother extended it to anybody who came to our household. She never, ever, when one of my brother's friends or whatnot got in trouble and got put out, they came to our house, and my mother gave them a place to stay until they could go back home. But that's the kind of community that we were. And that was the kind of community that you have wherever you lived if you were raised in the 60s and the 70s. It wasn't unique to where I grew up. That was just what came out of slavery. Most of us don't pay attention to it, but that came out of slavery. All the way from 1863 up to the late 1970s. And when we got into the 80s, when we started, smelling ourselves, those traditions we thought were passé. We thought that there was something wrong with those traditions, and we got rid of those traditions. But those were rich traditions that made us a very strong people, because we were starting to do okay, relatively well in the late 1970s, mid 1970s, late 1970s. As a people, we were really starting to grow. But we allowed for ourselves to completely abandon those traditions that made for our families to be strong. As a community, if those traditions had remained, we would never see the kind of carnage that we're seeing that is happening in our community. We would never see the kinds of destruction of life in our communities if we did not disconnect ourselves from each other. See, it is easy to hurt someone that you're not familiar with. It is not as easy to do that to somebody that you're familiar with. I'll give you a case in point. As a little boy, as a adolescent, I had a best friend. His name is Michael Odom. And he lived on the corner. And I lived around on the same block, on the same block. He lived on the corner, and I lived around the block a little bit. But we grew up together, and we were very close. And one day, my brother, for whatever reason, were trying to get us to toughen up or something. And he tried to force me to fight my best friend, my childhood best friend. And we were on the porch of Mrs. William, and I was standing there as he was trying to force me to do it. And I'm trying to convince myself to fight with him. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it because he was my friend and we had a very strong familiarity with each other. The point is that when we are disconnected and when we disconnect ourselves from others, it's easier. It's easier to dismiss people that you're not familiar with. It's easier to demean people that you are not familiar with. It's not so easy to do to people that you're familiar with, and you are not more likely to offend people or certainly to hurt people that you're familiar with. What is my point? The point is this, is that we have got to find it in our heart. We got to find it in our spirit, and we got to make it up in our mind that we want to elevate and we want to lift our communities. We want our communities to be strong. We want our communities to be vibrant. We want them to be enriched on every level. And if we do that, if we do that, we will reduce violence and crime. If we do it, not the police, if we commit to bridging ourselves together, reconnecting ourselves in our communities, wherever we are, we will reduce violence. We will reduce crime. We will rid ourselves of poverty. And we will force and make sure that we have the infrastructures of good, high quality educational systems for our communities. And then we also can force to make sure that the people who are representing us in public office are bringing the resources and bringing vitality to our communities, where our children, grandchildren can have opportunities that are not too far from at home, just like many other communities, to enrich our communities. But it starts with the we. It starts with us, you and I. We are the only ones who are going to change it. Nobody else individually is going to change this. Collectively, we will change it, or collectively, we will stay much the same. And the same is that we have most of us doing okay. And then we'll have a small segment of those that we have disregarded and dismissed that are not doing okay. And they are going to continue in those with those negative outcomes. So we have to make that decision. Do we want to have a better, stronger community? Do we want to have a better, safer community? It's not going to be up to a mayor. It's not going to be up to a governor. It's going to be up to us to force the mayor, to force a governor, to force whoever the representatives are. It starts with us, because if we leave it to them, they're going to do what they want to do. And in most cases, it's not going to be inclusive of us. That's the reality of it. If we leave it to them, they're going to do what they want to do and legislate for somebody else that's not going to be inclusive of our community. I've been in Chicago now going on 40 years, 39 years. We have tremendous opportunity. And we've been passed over. Our communities have been passed over. Most of us are doing okay. But we have segments in our communities that are hurting. And as a result, they're hurting others. And we're all affected by it. You sit around with people who talk about They're not going to a certain place, if they don't have their gun, and those killers over there, or we have Terrortown over there. Now we're talking about a small segment of people that is causing this widespread fear, as though it is happening everywhere, that it is just everywhere. And it's not. It's not good, but I am simply saying that we can reduce it. We can all but eliminate it. All but one thing. If we bring ourselves together to put ourselves in the position of power, to set the agenda that we need. These are the basic things that we need in order to have a strong, vibrant community with opportunity. Strong educational institutions, fully funded, fully resourced to provide the education for our children in every neighborhood. We can get that. We can get that, and we can get it in a relatively short order. When I say a short order, it could be 4 years, it could be 5 years, 6 years. We can transform it, but we can have strong economic, strong health, housing, all of these areas. We will not have that at the level that we can have it if we don't allow ourselves to understand what we have to do in order to make those things produced. We have to have a collective, corporate strategy and agenda in order to make it happen. That's all that it takes. It is not rocket science. All it takes is a bunch of us that agree that we are going to go together in one way. We're going to meet. We're going to agree to be our own independent mass block, that we can go to a legislature. We can go to a city council in that block, and we can say to that city council made up of elected officials that we have placed there, that these are what our demands are. And if you all cannot deliver those demands, we have to hire somebody else who can. We have to replace those who can no longer deliver with others who can deliver. And because we have created this block, we have the power to be able to say to a person, we have the numbers to elect a new alderman in the 21st ward or the 8th ward or the 6th ward or the 7th ward or the 2nd ward or the 3rd ward or the 4th ward or the 5th ward or the 9th ward or the 18th or the 17th ward, the 24th ward, the 37th ward, the 35th ward. We have what it takes, because the wards that I just call up are the wards that we are largely concentrated in as Black people. And if we were to organize ourselves together, have 10,000 of us in each one of those wards in this independent block that is called 10 by 10 to win, our political action committee, that we can set a whole new tone, and I mean radical tone in the way that resources that are happen, that it would literally before our eyes blow our minds as to the power of our collectivism, not the power of individualism, I don't care how bright or brilliant one person is. One person has not the power, no matter what their ability is, that of a voice that 200,000 of us would have. Just by merely organizing ourselves together. We don't even have to have the first meeting. I hope that you hear me. We won't even have to have the first meeting. All they have to know is that we are organizing in a way that Black people have never, ever done. I mean, institutionalize it to where they see that we are coming together. We are growing. We are coming together as a unit. That's going to make every Black representative, including white representatives in offices that are citywide, countywide, or statewide, pay attention and respond to us. They will never not respond to the masses. Individually, they can ignore you because you have no power. Individually, you can't impact them individually. I can't impact them individually. Collectively, we can. A case in point. Another case in point. I called because I recently moved, and I moved into the 6th Ward. I called as a test. I called Alderman William Hall, whom I know. Got his cell phone number. I called him as a test. He never responded, never returned my call. Now, I don't chase anybody, but it was a test. I can guarantee you, not because of me, I can guarantee you that if 10,000 of us joined, if we got 10,000 people that are 10,000 people who are part of the block that is from the 6th Ward, 10,000 Black people of the 6th Ward that is made up of the ward of about 60,000. If 10,000 of us, 10,000 people became a part of the block, I guarantee you that if we called the alderman's office, because they would know about it, if we call the alderman's office, 24 hours wouldn't go by without them or somebody from their office returning our phone call. That is the power of collectivism. That is the power of uniting. Let us unite across our ward lines to build the most powerful Black independent Democratic voting bloc that we will transcend and transform the way that our communities are served. I want to ask you to do one thing. I'm going to leave it in the text. As we close out, text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385 and get in the text alert so that you can receive the Zoom link, come in to a meeting that takes place on Thursday nights at 6:30 by Zoom and learn about what we're doing to build this independent voting bloc so that we could have a strong, united voice. All right. I want to thank you for tuning in to the broadcast, and we will see you all next week at the same time, same place right here on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I'll see you this week. We are certainly going to be doing more of the shorter podcasts, talking about, I'm certainly going to have to talk about what's going on in Washington. I'll probably do that tomorrow night or Wednesday night. Thank you all so much. I want you to have a good night. Please go to the YouTube page, like and subscribe there, and share it with your outlet, and so that we can continue to build and organize ourselves. There's no cost for you to subscribe on the YouTube page. Just look for Mark Wallace, The People Show, and subscribe. All right. Thank you all so much. Look forward to seeing you the next time. Have a very good night.